This is Quint Crispin. He's been an engineer for 17 years and currently designs and prototypes sighting systems for firearms at Leupold and Stevens. Is that right?
Yeah.
He has a passion for building things you can't buy at a store, both at work and at home. He's a natural tinkerer and exploits the skill daily in his career. He has several patents and is one of 5 people in the state of Oregon to hold a senior level GDT certification, which is a fancy way of saying that he's really good at making drawings.
Thank you. That makes me sound really smart. But I'm I grew up in Tillamook. I'm kind of a redneck kid that decided to become an engineer, so it definitely plays a role in my career. Speaking of redneck stuff, who's seen any of the Predator movies? Okay, good. So I was afraid nobody was going to raise their hand. So who's seen the original Predator movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger? Yeah, get to the chopper. Yeah, all that stuff. Okay, come laugh. It's okay to laugh. I'm trying to be fun. So in this movie, Arnold Schwarzenegger is the head of the rescue team, Tier 1 Special Forces operator kind of thing, and their task is to go into the jungle and rescue these guys that were in a crashed helicopter. And everything's going great until members of his team just start disappearing and they can't figure out what's going on. And spoiler alert, you're probably not going to go back and watch this 1987 movie anyway. Spoiler alert, it's this creature that's an alien from outer space, has technology that they've never even seen before. And one of the most amazing things, or what really captured my attention watching this movie, what got me so excited about it as an 11 or 12-year-old, whether 12-year-old should be seeing that movie or not, but was that Predator, that helmet that he's got on, allows him to see temperature. So, and for the movie, if you look in the credits, they actually had people come in with at the time, state-of-the-art thermal vision, and we're using that real footage for the movie. So here you're seeing a bunch of blue of the jungle there that has no heat energy to it, or very little, or all very similar heat energy. And then there's Schwarzenegger, one of the characters, just standing out in the woods. So that was just, man, that was the coolest thing in the world when I saw that as a young teenager. Could not wait to get my hands on something like that, but it was, $20, $30, $40, $50,000 for something, and it had to be on an airplane kind of thing. And fortunately, the world has changed in the last 30 years. This is a product that the company that I work for just came out with this year. There's one right there. And this would have been like 10 years ago, this would have been $10,000 or $20,000 for something that can do what this does. And you can buy one of these. I'm not trying to sell these. These can be bought, get on, order one for $700. So like, okay, $700 is a lot of money, but like, how much did you put into your gaming computer kind of thing? Okay, yeah, maybe $700 isn't that much. But, so with one of these things, you can see the temperature of whatever's around you. And just kind of like that Predator movie, this one has, a lot of them are like a black and white thing where you can set it to black hot or white hot, so the thing that is most warm is either white or black. This is a special mode where it looks at the screen and says, what's the warmest thing? And it turns it orange, so obviously that guy's face and hands and the face of the guy next to him are turning orange. And then this is a video that I took of at night when it's completely dark. Let's see if this thing plays or not. Hey, all right, good. So right in the middle of the screen there that is a deer, and this is complete blackness. I'm just holding, crap, I went and messed that up. I was trying to turn the laser on, and I hit the, so that's a deer, and all around this, I'm just holding my phone up behind the eyepiece of this thing. So all around me is just black. You can't see anything with your eye, but I'm looking down into a field, and see all this stuff is turning orange right now because it's the warmest thing in the view. That deer's about to pop its head out, and as soon as it does, it's the warmest thing, and all this is relatively cold. And so it's highlighting that sucker, and there would be no other way that I could even see that. Now, and if you think of the typical night vision that the military uses, or when you're watching the news and they're showing whatever footage where the whole thing is green, that stuff could have seen out here, but that deer wouldn't stand out. And I've worn night vision walked up 50 yards from a deer and didn't know it was there until I turned on the thermal. I was like, whoa, it's standing right there, even though I could see just fine. So, really cool stuff. And one of the project manager had asked me, I said, hey, I want to be, you notice that was kind of a crappy video. He said, hey, how can I take better video of this thing? Can you make me a phone holder to be able to set this thing up? And so he just handed me his iPhone and said, hey, can you make me a model of this? Anybody know what 3D printing is? Thank you, good. Sometimes I do that and it's like, what's 3D printing? And I go to explain what it is, good. So this is just modeled that thing up in SolidWorks in CAD and 3D printed that up and gave it to him the very next day. He was just like, I can't believe this. This is such a cool place to work. I asked for this yesterday and here it is on my desk when I show up in the morning. So I was able to pop that phone in there and obviously there's the image and there's what it's recording and he can take video and stills all he wants. So the place that I work is Leupold and Stevens, and if that looks like and if you can quite see that, it looks like a crosshair from our scope, and that's no accident because our primary product is rifle scopes. And every Leupold rifle scope is made right across the highway, I've lost my sense of direction, right across 26 from here is 700 or more employees churning out hundreds of thousands of rifle scopes that are all made right here in Beaverton. At hundreds of thousands every year. And obviously this guy's kind of a serious dude. He's put a lot of effort into getting there. He's all geared up to be not be freezing to death out in that snow and everything. And he wants to make sure that his rifle and his scope are going to work when he needs it, if he's going after a deer, caribou, elk, whatever it is. And so he's got, you can see there's a gold ring there on the end of his rifle scope, and that's our trademark. If you go down to Bass Pro Shops or Sportsman's or Bi-Mart and you see a rifle scope with a gold ring on it, that is a Leupold rifle scope. Nobody else can use that. And it means that it has a lifetime warranty, that you could buy a used one of those at a garage sale. If there's anything wrong with it, doesn't matter when it was made, send it to us and we fix it for free. Can you do that with your cell phone? Can you do that with your car? Can you do that with anything else that you own? We were the first people in the industry to offer that. We've been doing it for a lifetime, and other competitors saw how much success we were having with it, and they started to copy us. Doesn't mean their products are any better. They just started to offer the warranty, and they end up doing a lot of replacements because they don't do all the brutal testing that we do. And how we build those, we've got this is just a portion of our manufacturing floor. We've got 40-something CNC turning centers that are basically like a lathe. Like in wood shop, you think of a lathe that you're going to turn a board and turn it into a table leg or a baseball bat or something like that. That's what these things do, but they're doing it with metal, and they can stop in the middle of that and drill a hole or cut a thread very, very precisely. They're taking aluminum bar stock. You can see all the racks of bar stock just lying there waiting to go into these machines. They're taking that bar stock, feeding into one end, and out the other end comes the main body of the rifle scope. And it's got basically everything it needs to be put together, except we send it out locally here to get it coated, get it anodized, if you've ever heard what that process is. Background about me, got my manufacturing engineering degree from Oregon State in 2000. I've been at Leupold since 2003. And yeah, you guys weren't here to hear the previous speaker, but he talked about the value that companies see in hiring people that tinker and that build projects on their own. And oh my goodness, you talk to anybody that knows me, and I drove my old 78 pickup that I tore apart, a 2004 F-150, and took all the guts out of it, so I'm driving this old 70s truck that has newer, used to be brand new, technology in it. I got a 3D printer at home, I got a shop I didn't have tools as a kid to be able to build with, and I'm way overcompensated as an adult. Got just a shop full of metalworking tools, and all of that. Sometimes stuff at work, they don't have the combination of tools in the place that I want it, and I'll just go home and build some kind of camera setup or something like that. So yeah, if you're the kind of person that likes to tinker, take things apart, figure out how to make it better or make your own thing that you can't buy at a store, that is an incredibly valuable skill. Don't let that die. Keep that alive. Keep doing that. Right now I'm a senior engineer in the R&D department. That's a large reason why I got into that. I was doing just kind of normal engineering, and I kept going to my boss saying, when are we going to do this? When are we going to get into night vision? You think we could bring him a product? Think we could ever build something like this? So when there was an opening in R&D, guess who they said was going to be in there. So, think about that as you try to advance in your careers. Be known as that person who's trying to push the envelope. And I also, as a result of that, I invented this Devo rifle scope that I'm going to talk about. So this is a typical cutaway of, let's see how much time I've got here. Typical cutaway of a rifle scope, and we use a lot of CAD, obviously. Probably half of my time I spend on a CAD system like SolidWorks, but there's CATIA, there's Inventor, there's Pro Engineer. Any one of those, they're all very similar in function these days. But one of the greatest values of this is being able to section something just like that. You can go in and measure all your little fits. Everywhere that air could possibly get inside of this thing, there's an O-ring in there, little rubber seal, and they have to be squeezed just the right amount to work. If you don't squeeze them at all, they'll let air and water get in there. If you squeeze them too much, they'll degrade over time. So having this section, you can go in and just plan every little piece of it out and make sure it has the best chance of working when you first build it. And that scope is this one right there. It zooms from 1 power, so it's like you're looking through a window, to 6 power, so you can zoom in and see things further away like a telescope. And then this is kind of its bigger brother that goes from 3 to 18. I've used that scope to hit something about the size of a basketball at 1,000 yards away. 10 football fields, you see 1,000 yards for the first time, it's like you can't send a bullet that far and hit. You get a good scope and a good rifle, it's amazing what you can do. It's not that I'm just I'm just a redneck kid from Tillamook, so I'm not some sniper guy. This is just a real quick, actually I'm going to skip past that because I know I'm using up my time. So this is a video just showing how the scope can zoom in and out. And it takes a few seconds to reach up, and you've got to turn a dial on that scope and zoom it up. The other end of the spectrum, there are guys out there, if you get on the discussion groups of, well, what's the best optic for my whatever rifle? There are a lot of guys, okay, I will only use a rifle scope because I get this precision. It's like a telescope on top of a firearm. And there are other guys that say, well, I do competition where they'll set out steel plates that are all close to me, and I got to shoot as many of those steel plates to, I've got a clock measuring me to the 100th of a second. I have to do it faster than everybody, so I need a red dot sight. And this isn't a sight like I'm pointing a laser here, right? That's a laser. That would be like a laser sight. That's not what this is. This is projecting that little red dot there back to your eye. It's reflecting it off of a curved window. And the cool thing about these is you can set it on a shelf, bob your eye around, and you'll see the dot follow this exact same spot as you're moving your eye around. It's kind of trippy. But what that means is I can pull up a firearm and very, very quickly see that dot because I don't have to get my eye right in just the right spot to see through it. So these are really, really fast. But prior to this new scope, you had to pick one or the other. You had to have either a rifle scope and just deal with the shortcomings of a rifle scope, or you would have a red dot sight and deal with the shortcomings of a red dot sight. And I got frustrated by that, and for months I was just like, I don't want to have to reach up and zoom my scope, and I want it to be as forgiving as a red dot. And guys have come up with all kinds of creative solutions where they're putting a red dot on top of their scope or on the side, and they're bobbing their head around and doing that kind of thing. And I decided I didn't want to do any of that. So I just kept messing around, tinkering with tape and duct tape and glue and scrap scope parts lying around. And I came up with this. And you may not be able to tell what's going on there, but in this upper view, this is a red dot sight. So as I mentioned, it's a really quick thing you'd be able to see through. And there's the dot is right there as the aiming point. And then down here is a 6 times magnified zoomed in image with a reticle aiming at that same spot. And to my knowledge, this is the first time in the world that this view was ever taken. And let's see how I did it. That is literally packaging tape holding a couple of scrap prisms onto the eyepiece of the scope. And then I've installed what people would normally do, which is taking, if they want a red dot sight in addition to their scope, they park the red dot sight up above, and they're just bobbing their head up and down whenever they want to switch between the two. But this gives you that instantaneous, one person said it's as fast as you can think. And they're absolutely right. You're not used to this, and you're sitting there, whatever activity, if it's a shooting competition or a military thing or just out hunting, you're not used to this, and your brain kind of has to catch up to it because it's always there, both views. And nobody'd ever done that before. and said, okay, obviously this is not something that could be used out in the field. It's going to fall apart the first time you pull the trigger. So how do we make this into a real product? How do we innovate and make this something that we can sell? And that's where our 3D printer, thank you, I'm glad you all know what 3D printers are. This is our Object, one of the nicer ones. You know, it's not the $500 or $2,000 maker bot type stuff. This is like an $80,000 printer. And it turns out really cool stuff. So I modeled up something that was actually one piece, had all the components of that previous one without, you know, minus the packaging tape, and printed that thing out. And there it is sitting on top of a rifle with, I've got the mirrors stuck in there, I've got an eyepiece, and that's what it looks like looking through it. The eyepiece is down to the side, and the red dot is, I've got a different red dot on it. The next iteration is like, okay, I don't want to have these exposed mirrors, I want to enclose it. How do I enclose it? I'll just keep going back to my modeling program until I've completely enclosed the thing and printed it out. There it is. So these are all iterations, still not knowing what the end product is going to be. And then, hey, how about we put the eyepiece directly below the red dot, and yet a different red dot from a different manufacturer, trying to see if it'll work with that. And this one has adjustments, so I can actually align it with where the rifle is, which is kind of critical for a sight. And the cool thing about that one, that's a 3D printed scope, but I put it on a rifle and went out and test fired it. We actually went down to Texas and we were chasing feral hogs down there, and it actually held up for most of the day. It actually fell off my rifle at the end of the day, but for the most of the day it worked really well. I also don't know of anyone that's taken a 3D printed sight and put it on and actually live fired it. And so once that proved out that was like, yeah, this is something we want to do. We want to take this, this has a real viability to be a product. Let's make it out of metal. So again, back to the CAD system, put all the, now you can turn it clear and see all the guts of everything that's in there, checking all your O-ring fits, making it work. And also talking to, this is a program called ZMAX that our optical engineers use to make sure that these are ray traces of the light that's going from the objective lens, so that's the one that's pointing the target, all the way to the eyepiece lens. And they're looking at colors and contrast and making sure it's not going to be some cruddy, when you look through it, it's not going to be like looking through a Coke bottle or something. It actually has to be a nice, pretty image. There's another three-dimensional rendering of that. And anyway, there's a bunch more detail on that I won't bore you guys with unless you have questions at the end. But sent that model out, and they used a 5-axis milling machine, which is, you know, some spinning cutter has to come in and reach all those different angles. And so the machine that's holding it has to be able to turn it like this and that and that and that and that extremely precisely so that everything adds up when it's done. And another tool that is sort of on the forefront is, prior to 10 years ago, if you wanted a part made, you had to translate it into two-dimensional prints that you could just print out, and here's a piece of paper, and here's how you make the part. And when you get a really complex part like this, that becomes more and more difficult to try to represent every feature on a piece of paper. So they come up with model definition of parts, and this is kind of the lazy man's way of doing it, and some people like it, some people don't. I know Boeing has like completely switched over to this, is what I've been told. Let me add, I'll show what all those markings look like. So now you can imagine those outside features of this thing, those are just cosmetic. Nothing touches that, so they can't possibly be as critical as what's on the inside. So now, like, this call out shows a really big number of how much those surfaces can move and still be okay. And you could, if this was live in CAD, I could click on this and all the surfaces that it applies to would highlight. And I can hide these and show them. And so if you're somebody that's trying to make this part, it makes it really easy to go, let's see, I'm working on this feature. What is the requirement for that? And just look at it. You never have to print out a drawing. You just look at it on the computer. So that's probably where things are going, but I have encountered some resistance from that. Here's one of our optical engineers. She is live fire testing that exact scope. We have a range out in Madras where we can shoot out to a mile at steel targets, and it's, yeah, a lot of fun to go out and do that. I will play this video. We have a high-speed camera, and some people were concerned that the ejection of the case coming out of the rifle might strike the objective of that scope. And of course you can see that there isn't anything to worry about. It clears underneath, and even if some rifles actually do smack the underside of that thing, but it doesn't do any damage to it. The important thing here is that there's a lot of stuff that happens in literally however many 100 milliseconds, and our human vision can't perceive it. But you start taking something at 3,000 or 6,000 frames a second, and now you're able to analyze it. I've been using the high-speed camera on other projects here recently, almost all last week. And the end product of that is this, it got handed out of R&D where I work into the new product introduction folks, and they made it look all cool and put logos all over it. Some people like, some people don't. And there it is sitting behind the red dot sight that it's in front of. And that's what it looks like. I was on a predator hunting trip. That's actually what drove, calling in coyotes and things and trying to hunt those is what drove the development of this thing, because you never know if that coyote is going to be. I've had situations where I'm looking at coyotes that are 400 yards away going, I can almost shoot that far, and then here came a coyote coming in 30 yards in front of me, and it's like, oh crap, I wasn't ready for that. And this is a hunt where you can see that coyote right there that's at the 6x zoom. It's the same coyote right there the red dot is on, and that is what your eye sees when you're holding the firearm. That's never been done quite that way before, ever. So pretty cool, something we're proud of. And apparently the gaming industry likes it because they used it in a computer game called Contract Wars. It's another video, but I know I'm using up too much time. But yeah, if you go, I know there were some gamers in here before they were talking with the last speaker, and yeah, it's you get that same effect. You're not sitting there hitting the function keys to flip back and forth between scope and open sights. But this is my final slide here, and this is probably my favorite one, because each one of these, this is sort of the cycle of innovation of here to here to here to here to here to here. And each one of these steps, this is how problems are in real life. We were just talking here earlier about the project-based learning that some of you guys get to do. It's not that you're just, learn how to calculate the circumference of a circle or how to calculate the area of a circle. You're actually using, some of that you have to do, but you're learning things by doing them. And yeah, you get out in the real world, and it's not like, hey, we solved a problem already, would you please sit here and solve it again for us? They're not going to pay you to do that. They're paying you to, hey, we have a problem and we're not really sure what the problem is. We just know our customers aren't happy with this. Could you dig in and see if you can identify, recreate what the customers are seeing, and then figure out a way to fix it? And they don't know if there's an answer. You don't know if there's an answer. And that's how this was. I cranked this together, and that was the best I could do at that time. And nobody could tell me any different. They're like, yeah, hey, that's pretty neat. I wonder if you can get it any further. Well, get it to this step. I wonder if you can get it any further. So each one of these steps represented the best that we could do at any one of those times. We had no idea it was going to end up looking like this. If we did, I would have just built that. So that is how when you get out of high school, get out of college, wherever you're working and whatever you're doing, those are the kind of problems you're going to be dealing with. That's where the real value will be to your employer. So. Any questions? I don't know how much of my time. Do we have any time, or did I use it all up?
We're doing pretty quick changeovers today, so yeah.
Okay.
All right. You guys have any questions?
Yeah.
How much do you pay?
Excellent question. I did get bumped into the I'm well into the six-figure category now, and that's not typical. So we've got engineers. Our engineers are probably from 70, I'm going to say 60, 70,000 a year up to, I'm guessing our more senior electrical guys might be in the 120 kind of range. So yeah, you can, and you got to stand out. If you want to get paid more, nobody's looking out for you but you kind of thing. You've got to be pushing that envelope. Like I said, I was going to my boss and going, when are we going to do this? When are we going to do that? It's like, hey, this person has some energy. Let's promote them. Let's give them opportunities. So that's the kind of thing you need to demonstrate. You'll get promoted and get those pay raises.
How do you get those?
How do you get those? You can order, all this stuff is available online. Cabela's is one of our biggest distributors. You can go to cabela's.com, you can go to Optics Planet. You can just Google Leupold. You Google Leupold and you'll have red dot sights. You'll have, this is the LTO tracker if you want to go look at that. You guys know better than I do. YouTube is a fantastic place to go check out reviews, and guys will tell you where they bought them. But yeah, get on any optics Planet, Cabela's, you can just order them online. I think even Amazon has this stuff. I see several hands. This is great. I don't usually get questions. So.
Did you make the scope that they used in the game before they used it in the game? Did you?
Yes.
That? Did you patent that before they used it?
Yes.
Did you get paid for that?
I got paid to do my job.
I mean, so
Oh, did I get paid for the rights at the game kind of thing? Mm-hmm. Not on this one apparently. Apparently, it's kind of shady how that whole game thing happened. Apparently, because I've heard of it in the past of the rights being like we get paid a little bit of money for them getting used in a movie or getting used on a game. In this one in particular, this was a Russian game.
did they use it? I saw like Call of Duty and Battlefield up there too.
Oh, do they? Oh, I listed those names on there as other games, but so far I've only seen it in that.
I saw
contract
that. I
boards.
saw something similar to that.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, I would.
That's what I was asking.
Yeah, if we did get paid for those, I wouldn't be the person to know, but I know we were all wondering. This contract wars were the first one that it showed up on. We were like, how did they get that to look so good? It was like, did they hack our system and get that? Because it looks it looks good. It looks, all the views and everything look fantastic. And you'll go to the trade shows and you'll see these guys whipping out their cameras and like taking really close-up pictures of the products. Like, what do they do? What do you? Yeah, they're probably running back home and doing 3D renderings with this picture and that picture. And a lot of our stuff does get. So that red dot sight that's in front of it is like $1,000 if you want to buy it. It's one of the more expensive ones. And you can buy one that looks a lot like it for $80, but they are junk out of China. So we do quite a bit of, we're all American-made stuff. Our binoculars, we actually do import binoculars, but everything that goes on a rifle gets made in this factory right across the highway. And we're just like, nobody's gonna take that from us. And yeah, we're constantly dealing with people trying to import stuff that looks like our existing product and sell it for less money. And then we get stuff sent back to us like, hey, this broke, will you fix it under warranty? It's like, this isn't ours. What did you think when you were buying a $1,000 product for $80? What did you think you were getting? So, I see all the way in the back there. I was pointing my laser at you, sorry.
How old do you have to be to get a job like that?
You only have to be 18 to work at Leupold, but and you can get there through a temp agency. But to work in research and development I've been at Leupold for going on 14 years now, and 10 of that was not in research and development. So I spent a long time doing the grind of an engineer of just, okay, you've got 100 products here that we want to change something about, and you're just, okay, change this one thing on 124 different scopes. Like, and it's just paperwork, a little bit of fun stuff, paperwork, a little bit of fun, kind of like school was for me anyway. Maybe you guys have more fun with it. But yeah, how do you get into a job like that? You get to work at some place that makes an exciting product and just work your butt off and make yourself stand out. And then when there's an opportunity for that, you get to be a part of it. That's the secret. I see. Go ahead. You pick whoever's got.
You said that any product with the golden ring, you said it would have a warrant where you could fix it for free if it broke. Is that for any time you break it? Like, let's say you break it 2 or 3 times, it's still able for free? Or would you have to pay by the second time?
It's as long as it's not you taking a hammer and going, I bet I can break this thing, kind of thing. If it's through normal use, and that would be really unusual to have if something's getting sent back, it occasionally does happen, somebody sends something back a second or third time, and they're being very discerning about some particular thing that they don't like about the way that the product functions. Like, I want the clicks to be a little bit this way, or I want this to be that way. But usually somebody sends something in and they want a custom dial laser for it or something like that. But no, technically it doesn't matter. You send it back. If something keeps malfunctioning on it, we're going to be calling you back and going, what are you doing to this thing? Because we impact test these things. We have a machine that impact tests and replicates the recoil of a 375 H&H Magnum plus a safety factor. I mean, this is, and we do it 5,000 times. Every scope that we build, down to our most affordable $200 scope, has to survive that test and still function afterwards. That kind of abuse would kill most people. That you don't get that over a lifetime. So if you are making the scope, we've seen a guy brings in some custom elephant gun that none of our guys will even be willing to shoot. It's like, no, you can come in and shoot your own rifle at our indoor range and see what it does. We had like one time a guy had a rifle that could actually, in a very short amount of time, that was damaging some of the internals. And we're like, I don't know if we can help you, but we know we're the toughest in the industry. You're not going to be able to find a scope that's going to survive on that thing. But yeah, technically it's unlimited unless you're putting it in a vise and smashing it kind of thing.
Okay, got a last one? Got a question?
What was your favorite class in high school or college and why?
Ooh. It's a serious question. I want to give a serious answer. I liked shop because I was getting my hands dirty and finally learning how an engine works, but you can learn all that on YouTube now. Way better than the torn apart engines that I had. In college, I had most of college was kind of a struggle for me, but I forced myself through it. I wanted to be an engineer so badly that I made myself do it. Physics with calculus. I mean, that sounds really boring, but I did a lot of martial arts in high school. I don't know why. I was trying to do Chuck Norris or something like that. And we would like punch the heavy bag, like a big heavy dude hits the heavy bag and the heavy bag swings. And then, kind of a scrawny guy like me, I can hit it and I can make it shake. And I'm hitting it hard, but it's a different kind of hit. And it's like, we'd sit there and it's like, well, what's the difference? This one's fast, this one's slow and heavy. What's the difference? And when I took physics with calculus, and physics doesn't make sense to me without calculus anymore. They ought to be just taught. The calculus and physics ought to just be the same class, and it made sense where a lot of times you're taking them at the same time, and it's just like, oh, these overlap. This is how the world works. I was in an auditorium, 230 students, and I was not that great a college student. I was like, a B was fantastic, but I absolutely aced that class. I was like second or third on every exam because it's like, I want to understand this stuff, and I'd go home and do some of the. That makes me sound like a little bit more of a nerd than I actually am. But yeah, that was really enjoyable, and I've used that theory on a lot of these projects. When something's not working right, I can't figure out why. Go back to that particle motion and forces and friction and torque and just trying to figure that out. So it was the theoretical side of the mechanical that I learned to love, and then I do in my spare time, and then occasionally falling back on that theoretical when there's some kind of problem that nobody seems to be able to solve. So, there you go.
All right, awesome. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much.